Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Find Your Model Health. For those looking to optimize their long term health and weight goals and understand their body, I am your host. I'm Shmay Linney. I am a fitness and nutrition expert, biohacker, and certified iridologist. And I hope you're all keeping really well on this August afternoon. The weather is spectacular. And I wanted to get this episode out before I head to BC for a few days because one, I feel it's very important. Two, I've done a couple of posts on this. When I say a couple, I mean a lot. And it's a lot for people to read. And I've had a couple of clients ask me again that maybe missed the posts, hey, why are you talking about apples so much? Why are they so great? Can you remind me? So instead of tagging my clients in all the posts, I figured I would just compile the information into this one episode that you all can listen to and start implementing apples if you haven't already and reap the rewards. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. Before I go on, I must remind you that the information in these podcast episodes is not to be taken as medical advice, but for informational purposes only. Please do consult your medical practitioner or health professional before making any lifestyle changes. So, as I was saying, I have been speaking a lot about apples over the last while. Now, all apples are going to be amazing for you, but at the top of that tier is going to be organic green apples, and more specifically organic Granny Smith apples. So those are the really tart, really crunchy, really sour apples that make you make a funny face when you bite into them, especially if they're straight out of the fridge. Not many people like the organic or even just Granny Smith apples because they're so tart. This is probably why they're so good for you. Over the years, I've spoke about how important sour and tart foods are for you, especially for stimulating the vagus nerve, stomach acids, bile, digestive enzymes, supporting good gut health. And so the tartness of a Granny Smith apple is going to help with all of that. But not only that, so all apples are going to be great, except Granny Smith again are going to be your best, and especially organic, because I've mentioned this before. I know not everyone can afford organic, and I know some people are sick of hearing about organic, and I know some people believe there is no difference between organic and inorganic foods. From my educational point of view, if we're going to buy a non-organic apple, we know that herbicides and pesticides kill weeds and bacteria. We don't want to ingest stuff like that that could damage our good bacteria or our microbiome. But also there are many studies showing that fruits and vegetables that have been sprayed with herbicides and pesticides and other chemicals, they actually are lower in nutrition, and a lot of their polyphenolic compounds have been reduced greatly. So you're just not going to get the benefits, and you're risking whatever chemicals are on that fruit or vegetable coming in and damaging your own bacteria. Nowadays, many people are having a lot of issues with the gut and their bacteria and bacteria ratios, so good to bad. So, I mean, if you can buy organic, and there's a lot of organic fruit and veg right now that is very affordable, then go for that. But moving on, so I want to specifically just stick with your organic green Granny Smith apples. So we've got that they're very tart, they're very crunchy, they cause the mouth and the jaw muscles to do a lot of work biting into them and chewing them. So when we do that, we are stimulating all our good digestive processes, we're keeping a strong vagus nerve. We are also, and people don't get this, and I really hope you take this away. When we chew foods, when we crunch, when we tear, when we pull foods, we're using a lot of the muscles in our face. And when we're constantly doing this, we see that we improve facial structure and strength, and we keep the muscles and the bones strong in our face, which is very important. As we age, our airways can start to collapse as the muscles and the tissues and the bones start to weaken. And this is where we'll see higher instances of sleep apnea and snoring and other airway issues start to happen as people get older. And there is a few reasons, but they generally kind of all connect back to each other. And one of these reasons is the collapsing of the airways. And that's where we will see, if you take away someone's pillow and they sleep just on a mattress, we open up the airways, they breathe a lot better, they sleep a lot better. You see these nose strips that can open up the nasal passage, helping someone breathe better. This all comes back to the airways. So when we're crunching and chewing and biting and tearing, we're keeping the facial structure strong and helping keep these airways open and strong as we get older. So there is so much truth to an apple a day keeps the doctor away on many levels. So by the end of this episode, hopefully you're very convinced that you need to be eating at least one apple a day. So the pectin found in apples has been shown to lower cholesterol, especially on a high-fat diet. It can help increase enzyme production, which again aids in digestion and bile production, lots and lots of other stuff. And also those enzymes can help in the closing up of gut junctions, or those holes that may have appeared in the small intestine, and this is where we can see leaky gut happen. So those are called our tight gut junctions, but then when they're not so tight, we see problems, and the enzymes that apples help our gut produce can help to tighten up all of those. The polyphenols in pectin can help manage and mitigate inflammation. This is huge, and I have studies to back all of this up and point you in the right direction. If you want to see any of the studies, email me through my website, ShamainsModelHealth.com, or reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram, Shamains's Model Health, and I will get the studies to you. But I've been speaking about this a lot, especially in my heated guide. Inflammation is a huge thing. It always was, but it's even bigger now with the pandemic. Our stress load just increased tenfold when the pandemic hit. Jobs were lost, schools were closed. So I saw a big increase in inflammation in my clients. There were many reasons for it, but when I came across this study showing that specific polyphenols in pectin found in apples, more so in the skin, so you want to make sure you're eating that skin, but also in the flesh, those polyphenols can help mitigate inflammation. So they can help bring down inflammation even when in the presence of inflammatory molecules. So for the last few weeks, I've been encouraging my clients, hey, on refeed day, we know we're going to have some inflammatory foods. So how about we all add in an organic green apple to try and offset some of that inflammation or those damaging foods. And including myself, we've been seeing a difference, especially the next day, so post refeed day, where you would feel the inflammation. There is a difference. So these polyphenols have also been shown to lower lipopolysaccharides. Lipopolysaccharides, again, are very strong inflammatory molecules. If you've been following me or you're one of my clients, you know I speak about lipopolysaccharides and their formation and how we want to avoid the formation of lipopolysaccharides as much as possible. They are a big driving factor behind disease. One of the main ways we get lipopolysaccharide formation is when we combine carbs and fat together, they will form lipopolysaccharides. So what we see is the polyphenol in the pectin lowers lipopolysaccharides and can downregulate their formation. So if you already have high levels, those apples can start to lower that and then also inhibit formation of further lipopolysaccharides. Like, that's huge. That's like a big chunk of information right there. An apple a day, 2 apples a day to manage inflammation rather than medication. I'm not saying stop your medication, but this is definitely groundbreaking stuff and something to consider. And these polyphenols have also been shown to help lower inflammation from colitis. This is a big thing. A lot of people having issues with their gut lately, and a lot of colitis issues seem to be popping up in the community. So within these polyphenols found in the pectin of the apples, which is the fiber, we see these phenols called polymerized procyanidins. So these polymerized procyanidins, they're so big that they don't get absorbed in the gut. So by the time they get to the cecum, they end up causing the pectin to ferment. And when this happens, it causes Akkermansia to be produced 8 times more than any other food. If you don't know what Akkermansia are, I've done lots of videos and posts on them. But Akkermansia are a form of bacteria. They're carbon feeders. So they're pretty much our main bacteria when it comes to fat burning and staying lean and healthy, but they're also connected directly to a healthy gut. So when we eat the apple skins, we see then that the phenols cause the pectin to ferment, and this increases our Akkermansia 8 times more than any other food. We want an abundance of Akkermansia for good health, and we see that many studies show us that as we get older, our Akkermansia decreases, especially if you start to put on weight as the years go by. We know that people with extra weight or obesity have lower levels of Akkermansia than those who are lean and fit and healthy. So again, why wouldn't you add in an apple? There's another subsect or phylum of bacteria, and they're called Bacteroidetes. And these guys are pretty much the bacteria that help Akkermansia, and they help keep us lean and healthy. So one way that we can increase Bacteroidetes is through fasting and through doing cardio and exercise, but also again eating our organic green apples. So there's a study by Matsumoto et al. Showed that non-absorbable procyanidins, so those are those polymerized procyanidins I mentioned, a class of antioxidant flavonoids from apples, can prevent obesity in mice, a phenomenon that was associated with a decrease in the cecum of Firmicutes to Bacteroidetes ratio. So Firmicutes are the bacteria that make us fat and ugly and unhealthy, and we see that there's higher ratios of them in people that are overweight or ill. So this study sees the decrease in the ratio of Firmicutes to Bacteroidetes and an increase in the abundance of the mucin degrader Akkermansia. So we see Firmicutes decrease, we see Bacteroidetes increase, and then we see the Akkermansia, quote, abundance of Akkermansia appear. So this is very promising because Firmicutes, as I've looked at in the past, are bacteria that make us fat and sick, while Bacteroidetes make us lean and healthy. Okay, so apples, when eaten on a fast, this can not be very individual, but I recommend you work with a health professional when doing something like this, just to maximize your results, because not everyone will understand timing or the correct approach, and I like to ask my clients a lot of questions before I recommend anything. But an apple during a long fast, so an extended fast, can enhance autophagy and fat burning. So autophagy again is your cellular cleanup, so cleaning out damaged cells, and then the fat burning. So we've got this loop, and it does come back to those polyphenols and the promotion of the good bacteria and the inhibition of the lipopolysaccharides. But this is where we see the enhancement of autophagy, which some people say autophagy, I say autophagy, but it's super important because we don't want damaged cells just floating around and causing issues with the other cells that we're trying to keep healthy and strong and resilient. Apples are also considered a negative energy food. So a negative energy food is a food that pretty much when you eat it, it takes so much energy for you to digest it and break it down and absorb the nutrients that the calories that are in the food are almost negligible. So I say this to some of my clients with steak, for an example. So steak again is an amazing fat burning food and is great for Akkermansia. And another bacteria called bifidobacteria, which I'm sure you've heard of. But if you had a steak and it was 200 calories and you had to chew and digest, and steak is very fibrous and very hard to digest, that by the time you've digested or broken down that steak, you will have expended 100 calories of energy digesting and breaking it down. So therefore you absorb only 100 calories of the 200 calories. Does that make sense? So apples are considered another negative energy food, in that if an apple has 30 calories and it takes you 20 calories of energy to digest and break it down, then you are really only getting 10 calories from the apple. But that's the idea in negative energy foods. So apples are considered to be a negative energy food. Apples, both the soluble and insoluble fiber found in them has been shown to support hydration. Okay, this is super important right now, so listen to this. So the apples and many other fruits and vegetables, they contain what's called structured water, also known as easy water. You can look up a book called The Fourth Phase of Water, which is a great book. And it's like gelatinous water. So when you consume apples, the soluble fiber will then hold on or suck in water like a sponge, causing increased hydration. So we end up getting this gelatinous water in us, kind of like aloe vera gel or a jelly of sorts. So according to Dr. Dana Cohen, who is one of the co-authors of the book Quench, consuming an apple alongside a bottle of water will hydrate you twice as much as just having the water alone. So we can use apples to help with hydration. Apples also feed the raw materials and the good bacteria we need for good gut health too. So I'm going to summarize all this in a minute, but in apple skins, there is another polyphenol known as a red polyphenol, and this polyphenol is also found in other red fruits. And even though you're saying how could it be in a green apple, we do find these red polyphenols in green apples. They do help with sirtuin activation. But this red polyphenol, through a feedback loop, helps increase the activity of bifidobacteria. So bifidobacteria, you'll have heard of, you'll have seen it on probiotics. Bifidobacteria is a bacteria that helps with energy production and thus fat burning as well. Bifidobacteria is found in an abundance in kids. That's why they have so much energy. But we see that as we get older, our bifidobacteria starts to decrease. And one way we can start to increase that is through that feedback loop of eating the apples that feed and produce Akkermansia. The Akkermansia then create byproducts that then increase bifidobacteria, and we have this lovely cycle that goes on. Okay, so in summary, an apple a day really does keep the doctor and the dentist away. A lot of dentists will promote apples. My good friend Megan Scarson, owner of Woodside Dentures here in Airdrie, always reminds me that an apple will help clear the bad bacteria off your teeth, keeping your mouth nice and healthy too. So an apple a day keeps the doctor and denturist and dentist away. And we've all been hearing that since we were kids, but now I think I'll have convinced you more. So in summary, let me just go through a list, because I want to pretty much see organic green apples or Granny Smith apples being sold out in all stores in Airdrie. So apples have been shown to help with several types of cancer, help protect against radiation and EMF, they help with diarrhea, they help prevent hardening of the arteries, prevent bowel inflammation, helps with vaccine-induced toxicity of the brain, helps with periodontal disease, so that's back to our dentist, helps prevent hair loss through a feedback loop of advanced glycation end products, which are associated with the oxidation of blood sugars and causes of inflammation, which then damages hair follicles, causing the hair to fall out. So back to that, inflammation has antiviral properties shown to be beneficial against influenza and staphylococcal infections, helps with fat loss, and is amazing for hydration. So if you are not convinced that you should be eating an apple a day, then you should be. Before I finish, I do have some clients going through the elemental diet that I did the other day's episode on, and as I start to reintroduce solid foods, apples are one of those foods that are very beneficial to start adding in when transitioning from a full liquid elemental diet to that semi of adding in foods. So there is an abundance of information there on why apples should be staple on your grocery list, staple in your fridge. I like to keep my apples in my fridge. Everyone might be different. The cold temperatures of the fridge help slow down oxidation of not only the nutrients and the polyphenols, but the overall health of the apple. But that's each to their own on that. So I hope you found this podcast episode very, very enlightening and helpful, and you're off now to buy some apples. Please, if you would like any of the studies that I cite in this episode, or you would like to see where I get my information from, reach out to me. I will be happy to send you the information. I hope you guys have a fabulous weekend, and please help me help you help someone else. If you know anyone that would benefit from the information in these podcasts, please share. You never know who you might be helping. You never know what life you might be changing. And in these crazy times, we all want to be helping each other. And if we can just help each other be a little bit healthier, then we're winning the battle on some level. So I would really appreciate it if you would share. And if you can find it in your heart and you feel I deserve it, feel free to leave me a quick review on your favorite podcast platform. Okay, have a great weekend, and I will speak to you guys soon. Bye-bye.